Homestar Runner may be one of the most significant online shows to ever grace this once Flash animated universe. Its creation, a bit of a happy accident, merely a passion project for these two brothers chaps, but a series that would ultimately inspire thousands of people for years to come. Its characters were silly, its storylines surprisingly relatable, but the tale of Homestar Runner would be incomplete if we didn't mention one little thing. The music.
Everybody to the limit, everybody to the limit, everybody come on forward, guys. The system is down to this. Look out, world! I'm an independent girl.
So how is it that these two brothers chaps became not only one of the internet's earliest sensations, but also created some of the online world's most memorable jams? Well, sit back, relax, and maybe get ready to boogie, because my friend Lanuski is going to tell you the surprising truth behind some of your favorite Homestar tunes.
Some of Homestar Runner's most memorable moments lie in their songs and music videos. My cousin showed me the female dragon featuring TROGDOR the Burninator, and it hooked me with just how heavy and over the top both the concept and the music was. Strongbad's whole thought process was that of a kid who held on to what kids love as he grew up. Fire, dragons, violence, destruction, heavy metal. The good stuff. Fans of Guitar Hero may have even seen TROGDOR appear in several games alongside Heart of a Lion by the fictional band Limousine. But we'll get to them in a little bit. While not every song on the site broke through to the mainstream in quite the same way, many of these musical moments remain fan favorites that people reference and connect through. At the height of my childhood obsession with the site, my family couldn't help but be in on some of the recurring jokes and characters. So when my mom ran into somebody wearing a shirt of the Cheat at Disney World one year, she whipped out the chorus from The Cheat Is Not Dead.
I'm so glad the cheat is not dead. The cheat is not dead.
And then in true call-and-response fashion was immediately met by just the claps.
So glad the cheat is not. Just the claps. Just the claps. Strong side, I didn't know you had any rhythm.
Oh, sure, I got tons of rhythm.
This series has hooks, both in their soundtrack and their writing. And when those two meet, Shazam. You get memes. Before memes were called memes.
Meme school.
It's clear that Mike and Matt Chapman had an enormous influence on nearly an entire generation coming to the internet. And around the turn of the century, there was not a glut of memes or web content users, and to find something so universal and acceptable nearly 20 years ago was truly incredible. Homestar Runner was much more than just a show. Its website was integrative. It made you feel like you were part of a community, before the idea of being a part of an online community was really mainstream. But the music was something else. In a lot of ways, the music that Mike and Matt created was just as much a part of Homestar Runner as the quirky cast of characters itself. All of these things drawn from personal influences from Mike and Matt's life. And as we'll soon come to find out, it was in the roots of their own musical influence that some of their greatest jams would come to fruition.
Now, as we discussed in our previous video, which you should definitely go check out if you haven't already, there is no shortage of pop cultural reference points in the Chapman's vocabulary, and that couldn't be clearer than their many nods to bands and songs from throughout musical history.
All right, girl, man, get over here. You are forgiven.
Draft dodger, eh? Well, see if those trees you always hug and save you when Gordon Lightfoot's creeping round your back still.
Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back still.
Strongbad planted many seeds of their own original music in a single spemail called Band Names, where he came up with a few groups based on the fact that bands like Led Zeppelin or Def Leppard were just cool words, spelled wrong. What were cool enough sight and sound gags would go on to become fully realized things in the site's lore. Most notable among them is Limousine.
Take a round after the show for a free performance by Limousine.
I got the heart of a lion and the wings of a bat because of midnight.
If you put every hair metal band in a blender, Limousine would come out, laying down sweet, meadly licks while espousing lyrics of girls, beasts, leather, women, and any variation of the word night, midnight, two-night, etc., etc.
Taking a bomb, bringing the metal back to where it belongs.
Limousine's success snowballed into repeat live-action appearances throughout the site's history, and even an old-school parody of band-related cartoons from the 1980s.
They're still limousine,
We're still limousine,
but they're in space.
but we're in space?
I'm afraid I've got some bad news, boys. You're in space.
Down the line, though, another band came along that was perhaps a bit more reflective of what the brothers Chaps were into during the prime of their youth.
Hey, Sloshy!
Sloshy, an indie rock outfit introduced to Strong Bad by Strong Sad at a concert, is an amalgamation of alternative rock bands from the 90s. Unlike Limousine's jagged dad rock sound, Sloshy has a nerdier and more nonchalant style that can be immediately compared to Pavement or Weezer.
We don't really even care.
We don't even really care.
About you.
If the signatures are checked,
You'll just have to wait.
and we're counting up the instants.
They even united the two bands for a split EP where they covered each other's songs. I mean, the self-referential layers within their own universe is absolutely insane, and that was definitely further proof of that. Their love for underground music doesn't end there, though. Just a few years back, they paid tribute to the late great Daniel Johnston, who, if you don't know, is one of the all-time wizards of lo-fi bedroom music, a one-man show who wrote, sang, performed, and distributed his own music while also dabbling in amateur yet oddly charming visual art.
I had a flat tire down memory lane.
In a short video released on their official Twitter not too long after his passing, Strong Sad plays one of his signature tunes in Silhouette. No jokes to be made here, just pure feels. As was the case for many, myself included, the guy clearly meant a lot to Matt and Mike, and honestly, there's an unquestionable kinship to be found between their scattershot approaches to creativity.
Hi. How are you?
So, with this encyclopedic knowledge also comes an unrivaled ability to channel any genre they want. With what we've shown so far, you've already gotten a taste of it, but to truly appreciate how broad their musical stylings can go, one need look no further than Strong Bad Sings and other type hits. This 2004 album features studio re-recordings of many website staples, plus a couple new ones. Produced in conjunction with local Georgia group YOU, it packs all the fun of the site into a 40-minute ride. I listened to this thing hundreds of times as a kid, and like half the other crap attached to the site, I'll be moseying about minding my own business till suddenly, I'm not kidding!
No, I'm not kidding. I've never been more serious in my life. My life with you.
Hooks like that forever baked into the tender inner layers of my brain. I love Hate It. It's got everything. Rock ballads straight out of the 80s, college noodling with some half-hearted harmonica, a death metal dirge, Coach Z's trademark rap classic These People Try to Fade Me, even some brief R&B, country, and techno jams. It all adds up to a concrete understanding of what makes these styles tick. And even though most of them are over-the-top goofs and gaffes done in cartoony voices, the higher quality songs demonstrate an ability to produce some legitimately interesting music. Pair this album with the new compilations of the various background music used throughout the series run, and the talent and aural diversity is made even clearer. Let's take a look into the rest of the world, though, the mainstream. Every once in a while, I'll spot some reference or image in an unexpected place, or a piece of merch on a major celebrity. In all my years of fanhood, I've constantly forgotten just how far-reaching and influential this series is, and the company Matt and Mike keep in real life. Even early on, they were able to connect with some pretty big talent, chief among them alt-rock legends, They Might Be Giants, who they animated a music video for on their single experimental film, and even did some in-person jam sessions with the Homestar puppet.
Give me $2, come on! I was a man, but now I'm a dude. Oh yeah!
Incidentally, Homestar Runner is how I came across these guys in the first place.
A ceiling fan.
They kick ass.
By now, I think it's clear what came out in some of Homestar Runner's more bombastic narratives was much more than just random creation. As we've mentioned before, everything that Mike and Matt did came from some facet of shared life experiences. In a lot of ways, you could look at the characters, the stories, and even the music as a sort of pure homage to one of their past creative love affairs. Though it's also important to point out that over their more than 2-decade tenure here on the interwebs, while many other similar shows in the mainstream seem to have lost their luster. Homestar seems to have this unmatched staying power in the hearts and minds of fans. And that's because Homestar Runner has something that all of these other shows lack: authenticity. Because at the end of the day, they were doing it out of passion. This was never about making money or selling merchandise. It was about community. It was about art. And more importantly, it was about letting your freak flag fly. But here in 2021, where is this experimental prowess going to lead today? Let's explore this.
The most exciting aspect of this branching out is undoubtedly their forays into live performances, and their development of, for lack of a better word, real music.
I love you too, lady in the front.
Of course, to pull from Joji, music is music. It is not my intention to make some arbitrary divide between the work they've done for the site and what they have interest in doing outside of that. But the fact that they've started releasing EPs, compilations, and singles on Spotify shows that they want their fans to have direct access to their musical projects. And their collaborations with legitimate, full-blooded indie acts just demonstrates that they can hang with the big boys if they want to. Air Sea Dolphin, a project that includes several members from various 90s indie groups, is even listed under the Elephant Six Collective. You know what else they're known for? Yeah.
So when it comes to the music of Homestar Runner, you've been talking about not only where they're going to be going in the future, but also some of their influences coming up from their own childhood, adolescence, stuff like that. So what do you think most sticks out to you about Mike and Matt's journey through music creation, aside from just the Homestar series itself?
Well, there's like this synergy between all the various mediums that they work in, whether it's animation or visual art or the music, that's very DIY and very like personal. Like so much of their creative brand just comes from building upon all these various in-jokes and noises and design sensibilities, and it's all just kind of like unified. And just the fact that everyone just buys into it, like as someone who's been consuming their stuff since like elementary school, I'm totally on board with everything that they come up with. And I definitely think the musical elements are just further proof of that. You saw how long that Spotify playlist was.
No, totally agree. And I think it's a true testament to just their creativity. And something that I think what you just mentioned goes back to is just they're not trying to be funny. Like, for instance, Tobuscus is a YouTuber who's done music, and you could argue that some of his more recent music, I don't know, it seems more forced than some of his older tunes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that always throughout the entire series of Homestar Runner, because this was a passion project, first and foremost, community-based, I think there's less pressure to make it too good. They just kind of throw it all out there.
And that's like such a hard thing to maintain, especially when you've been doing it as long as these guys have. And yeah, like you can look at YouTube and there's dozens and dozens of people who, while they might still be around and to an extent successful today, it's pretty easy to come off as like kind of try hard. And these guys have never really had that problem in my experience. Like everything just flows so organically and naturally. And when they don't have that energy and stamina to do it in that way, they seem to just take a break.
Yeah, and I can kind of admire that from a creator point of view, because both you and I know creator burnout and the like toll it can take on you mentally. So I think that it's almost kind of in service to the community that they don't try and force out content just to appease us, because we've seen this with other creators who forcefully just try and get things out. Eventually the audience catches up to them and they kind of lose that sense of relatability with the creator because they can sense the passion's not there. So where do you think the music is going to be going maybe the next few years? As we know, they're intermittent in their creative process.
Yeah, well, more recently, we briefly talked about Strong Bad Sings and other type hits. Like that was like a full-bodied physical product that they put out that you can, of course, now stream. They made a board game recently, and as part of that package, they actually made an EP of instructional songs on how to play it. So even when they're like branching out into other means of creativity, they're still finding ways to kind of rope in their musical talent into it. So on top of that, they've also been making more and more music under their various personas, whether it's Limousine or Sloshy, and they're roping in people from the actual music industry to pull that off. So along with, you know, the cartoons and whatever else they plan on doing, I do think that more live shows and more EPs and LPs are going to be part of that equation, and I'm stoked for it because like the more time they sink into it and the more they kind of try to be like legitimate artists in that regard for that specific medium, the better it gets. And as someone who's like into the sound that they're kind of trying to pay homage to through this work, I'm salivating. Can't wait to see where that goes.
Good thing you have bad lighting, otherwise I'd be telling you to get a baby wipe or something. So the one thing I found with all of the different aspects to Homestar Runner, just the storyline, the various characters, the music, the video games, is that a lot of these things tie, like we've said in the video and previous videos, to aspects or experiences that they've had in their lives, whether it's musical inspirations or just kind of meme homages, and they've kind of created their own sort of authentic feel. And like you said, they're very quotable, probably the most quotable series from this online era of the internet. What is the importance of their authenticity, and how do you think they've maintained it for this long?
Well, it's interesting because like the authenticity itself does kind of come from the humble seat of your pants approach to this whole project that they've had from the get-go. Like as you covered, it was like a dumb kid's book with some goofy animal characters in it, and then it just kind of naturally progressed into the characters and the setting as we currently know it. And like the driving force behind every creative choice in the project is just like, oh, we're gonna do it this way. So I think that approach is so like genetically intertwined into the universe and the brand that to do it any other way would kind of compromise their ability to resonate with people the way that they have. They're not the kind of guys who just like, you know, cash in on being able to make merchandise of their stuff that they can sell at Hot Topic or anything else that's like hip with the kids right now. Like they're able to adapt to the changing tide of technology and the way that we consume different types of media without neglecting what gave their brand the energy and the kick that like people latched onto in the first place. So I guess to summarize, they're so far into it now that if you were to abandon that part of your creative methodology, the ship would kind of start to go down.
And I think that's why there has rarely since been, and I don't know if there ever will be, another Homestar Runner.
It's not very likely.
No.
Not at this stage anyway. If I had to wager a guess, something massive would have to happen. There would have to be like an internet after the internet, or just like some all new approach where, oh, we're literally hooking our brains into the thing now, where you'd need a new Wild West to have as your playground to hash out like something that's even remotely comparable.
And whether you became a fan of Homestar Runner for the games, the storylines, the characters, or even the music, each one of us has a unique story to tell as an admirer of Mike and Matt's great achievement over the last 2 decades. And as I mentioned in a previous video, this story is far from over. Remember, I'm Ryan with Lanuski, and I'll see you in the next video.